The graph of the function f and g are given. Let u be f of g, v be g of f, and w be g of g. Find its derivative if it exists. If it does not exist, explain why. First, every time we need to evaluate the derivative, we would need to find the derivative first. If we want to evaluate u prime of 1, we need u prime of x first. And so if u of x is the composite of f and g, then u prime of x is f prime, and then we rewrite the inner function and multiply the derivative of the inner function. U prime of 1 is therefore f prime of g of 1 times g prime of 1. To evaluate the composites, we always evaluate the inner function first. First, we would read g of 1 from the graph. The graph of g is the blue graph, and we see that g of 1 is 3. And so we replace g of 1 with 3. Also, g prime is the derivative or the slope of the tangent line at 1. G prime of 1 is the slope of the graph at x equals 1. But at x equals 1, the slope of this line is, we go down 3 and go over 1. And so the slope is negative 3. We still need to evaluate f prime of 3. F prime of 3 is the slope of the graph f at x equals 3. At x equals 3, the slope of this line is rise over run. This time, we would go down 1 and go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So f prime of 3 is negative 1 over 4. We still need to multiply negative 3, and so the answer is 3 over 4. U prime of 2 is f prime of g of 2 times g prime of 2. In this case, we don't need to go further because we know that g prime of 2 does not exist. G is not differentiable at x equals 2 because the graph of g has a corner. And so this part g prime of 2 is undefined or does not exist. Therefore, the entire derivative does not exist as well. For part C, to evaluate w prime of 1 and w prime of 2, we would need to have w prime of x first. W of x is defined to be g of x. W prime of x is g prime of g of x times g prime of x. Thus, w prime of 1 is g prime of g of 1 times g prime of 1. G prime, we need to evaluate g of 1 and we need to evaluate g prime of 1. G of 1 is the height of the graph of g at x equals 1, which is 3. G prime of 1 is the slope of the graph of g at x equals 1. The slope go from 1, 3 to 2, 0. Rise is negative 3 and run is 1. So the slope is negative 3. G prime of 3 is the slope of the graph of g at x equals 3. Notice that any point on this line has the same derivative because they share the same line. The slope of this line is rise over run. Pick two nice points going from 2, 0 to 5, 2. We would need to rise 2 and run over 3. And so g prime of 3 is rise over run. In this case, it is positive. We still need to multiply -3, and so the answer is -2. For w prime of 2, we would need to evaluate g prime of g of 2 times g prime of 2, but as with the case before, we can just stop here and say that this does not exist because g prime of 2 does not exist because, again, the function g has a corner at x equal 2, and so g is not differentiable at x equal 2.